Good day, learners! Welcome to the new episode of Math Corner. Now, for today's video, I'm gonna teach you how to solve age problem in mathematics. I'm gonna share to you basic steps that you have to follow in solving age problem in mathematics. Let's take a look with the example number 1. Carol is 15 years younger than Sylvia. In 2 years, Sylvia will be twice as old as Carol. How old are they now? Now, what is the first thing to do when we have this kind of problem? Now, the very first thing to do is to create first a table. A table which can be used to represent the problem so that it is easy for us to solve the problem if we are going to create this table, if we are going to represent the problem in this table. So the table will be divided into 4 columns. The first column will be the names of the persons involved in the problem. The second column will be their present age. That will be the representation of their present age. And then for the third and for the fourth column, that will be determined later in our problem. So first, we are going to write first the names of the persons involved. That will be Carol and Sylvia. So we are going to write here Carol and Sylvia. Next, since we already have determined the names of the persons involved in the problem, which are Carol and Sylvia, we are going to determine now the ages of both the girls. Now, according to the problem, Carol is 15 years younger than Sylvia. But we do know what is the age of Sylvia. That means we will represent the age of Sylvia by x, by the variable x. And then since Carol is 15 years younger than, that this keyword signifies subtraction. It's younger than. That means the age of Carol will be x minus 15. Okay, let's continue. In 2 years, this will be another keyword. In 2 years, please remember this one. That will be our third column here, in 2 years. Now, if the keyword signifies future, we are going to use addition as our operation. But take note, if the keyword signifies past events, just like 2 years ago, 5 years ago, we are going to use subtraction as our operation. But since our problem, we use here in 2 years, that signifies future events. The same with 2 years from now, or in 2 years, that means that will happen in the future. That means we are going to add, we are going to use addition as our operation. So where are we going to add the 2 years now? That's correct. We are going to add the 2 years in both the edges of Carol and Sylvia. That means in 2 years from now, the age of Carol will become x minus 15 plus 2, because that will be in 2 years. And the age of Sylvia will be x plus 2. So remember, we are going to add the 2 years in both the edges of Sylvia and Carol. Next, what will be our last column? According to the problem, Sylvia will be twice as old as Carol. So for our last column, we are going to create now equation, which will be used in solving for the present age of Carol and Sylvia. So according to the problem, Sylvia will be twice as old as Carol. What are we going to do? We are going to equate the age of Sylvia in 2 years from now. That means we are going to use x plus 2. We are going to equate that one by whose age? We are going to use this sentence here. Sylvia will be twice as old as Carol. If you are going to double, if you are going to times 2 the age of Carol, that will be the age of Sylvia in 2 years from now. That means, since the age of Carol in 2 years is x minus 15 plus 2, we are just going to multiply that by 2, or double the age of Carol. So since we already have this equation right here, we are going to use this equation to solve for our variable x, to solve for the ages of Sylvia and Carol. Now, this will be our starting point to solve this particular problem. So using the equation right here, we are going to solve for the variable x. So we are going to simplify first the terms inside the parentheses. So we are just going to copy x plus 2, which is equal to 2 times x, negative 15 plus 2, that will be negative 13. And then we have to distribute 2 to the two terms inside the parentheses. So we have here x plus 2 is equal to 2x minus 26. And then we have to combine similar terms. That means we have x minus 2x is equal to negative 26, and then minus 2. So that will be x minus 2x, that will be negative x, which is equal to negative 28. But since our variable is negative, we have to divide this one by negative 1. That means our x is equal to positive 28. Remember that in our previous illustration using the table, x is the representation of the age of Sylvia. That means Sylvia is 28 years old. This is the age of Sylvia. How about the age of Carol? Now remember, in our previous illustration, the age of Carol is x minus 15 because Carol is 15 years younger than Sylvia. Now what are we going to do? So since we already have the value of our x, which is 28, we are just going to, this will be the age of Carol. What are we going to do? We are just going to use the age of Carol, which is x minus 15. And since our x is 28, so we have 28 minus 15. That will be equal to 13. Therefore, Carol is 13 years old. Let's take a look at our example number 2. Heavy is 10 years older than Angelo. In 3 years, Heavy will be 1 5/10 times as old as Angelo. Find their present age. Now, the very first thing to do, just like in the previous example, we are going to determine first, or we have to create first the table. The table is divided into 4 columns. We have the names, the present age, and then we have here the other keyword later, and then we have here the equation in the last column. Now, the first thing to do is to determine the names of the persons involved in the problem. So the persons involved in the problem are Heavy. So that will be the first person. We have Heavy and Angelo. So we are going to write here Heavy and Angelo. And then after we identify the names of the persons involved in the problem, we are going to determine now the ages of both the boys. So we have here the present age of Angelo is determined by this. So we have Heavy is 10 years older than Angelo, but we don't know what is the age of Angelo, right? That means we are going to represent the age of Angelo by the variable letter x. That means x. And then since Heavy is 10 years older than Angelo, that will be our keyword, older than. So in our previous example, that will be younger than. So we use subtraction. But in this example, the keyword is older than. That means we use addition. Older than signifies addition. That means since the age of Angelo is x, so that means the age of Heavy is x plus 10. Okay. Next, in 3 years, this will be another keyword. As I said earlier, if the keyword signifies future, just like in 3 years or 3 years from now, we are going to use addition as our operation. So that will be the name of our column here in 3 years. Okay. So in 3 years, So that means both the ages of the boys will be added by 3. So we have x plus 10 and x, which will be added by 3 plus 3 plus 3. Next, in the last column, we have here the equation. But whose ages or whose age are we going to use to create this equation? So according to the problem, Heavy will be 1 and 5/10 times as old as Angelo. That means we are going to equate the age of Heavy. That means x plus 10 plus 3. That will be x plus 10 plus 3, which is equal to 1 and 5/10 times as old as Angelo. So we are going to multiply by 1 and 5/10 to the age of Angelo. But since we already know that the age of Angelo in 3 years is x plus 3, that means we are just going to multiply that one by 1 and 5/10. So that will be the age now of Heavy. So we have 1 and 5/10 times x plus 3. Okay. So since we already determined or formulated our equation in this particular problem, this will be now our starting point to solve for the present age of both Heavy and Angelo. So using the equation right here, we are going to solve first for the variable letter x. So we have here, we are going to simplify first, and we're just going to combine first similar terms. That will be x plus 13 is equal to, distribute 1 and 5/10 to the two terms inside the parentheses. That will be 1 and 5/10 x plus 4 and 5/10. And then combine similar terms. That will be equal to x minus 1 and 5/10 x is equal to 4 and 5/10 minus 13. And then x minus 1 and 5/10 x, that will be negative 5/10 x is equal to 4 and 5/10 minus 13. That will be equal to negative 8 and 5/10. Divide both sides by negative 5/10. Our x will be equal to 17. So, remember that in our previous illustration in our table, x is the representation of the age of Angelo, right? That means Angelo is 17 years old. So, this will be the age of Angelo. And to solve for the age of Heavy, now according to our illustration earlier, the age of Heavy is represented by x plus 10. But since we already determined the value of our variable x, which is at the same time the age of Angelo, which is 17, we're just going to use x plus 10 and then substitute 17 to the variable letter x. So we have here, solve for the age of Heavy. So again, the age of Heavy is represented by x plus 10, and x here is equal to 17. That will be 17 plus 10, which is equal to 27. Therefore, Heavy is 27 years old.